tell you what.
Going on?
Not much. Just glad to be back.
Yeah, we're back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother.
How'd your break go? I know you went on vacation. There was Christmas.
Yeah.
You got babies you're feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
was it?
It was good. I got to spend a lot of time with my family. Luckily, because of other things that I do, I don't have to work overtime at work, so I'm able to convert it into like compensatory time. So I took off a few hundred hours of benefit time, and I saw my bank, and it made me feel pretty good. I had a lot of time off with the family.
Nice.
So I had a really good time, good vacation with the kids. My kids had awesome Christmas. They got a really cool little present. So it's I will. I officially have a new reptile pet, and it's my only reptile pet that's a non-green tree python. And my girls wanted a tortoise, so I ended up getting a Sri Lankan star tortoise.
Yeah, you showed me the picture of that thing, and yeah, super jealous. That's like the one thing I keep trying to convey. I mean, I got a big backyard. I'm in Texas. I can keep these things outside. They don't even have to be in the house. I keep getting the no. Aspen wants one, still get the no. I can sneak snakes into the garage all day and she won't know. I can't sneak a tortoise.
This one you can. He's the size of a golf ball. He's a golf ball with legs right now.
Well, I know, but I mean, if you walk into my garage, you see cages and you see racks. My wife thinks snakes are snakes, right? You walk into the garage and you see a tortoise. That's not a snake.
Tell her you've had it for a while.
Right.
Oops.
Oh, man.
Tell her one of the retics spit it out or something.
Right.
Laid it.
Chuck, I was about to...
How you doing? I'm sorry. I was rude to me. How was your Christmas with your daughter and your family?
It was good, man. So she's 3, about to be 4 in January, but this was like the first Christmas that she was like up and excited, right? And like ready to go. Did the whole Elf on the Shelf thing, and she had a great Christmas. It was nice having the month down. I got a clutch of retic eggs that are about to be laid soon. I'm pairing the Aru chondros up. That's going pretty well.
Nice.
So all good stuff. I also got a promotion at work, so now I got less time.
Hey,
less free time, and I'm still trying to make this all work, but we'll see how it goes.
More people to worry about.
Right, exactly. I was about to introduce the episode, and I was thinking in my head, like, shit, what number episode are we on? We're on 15. This is episode 15. Okay, cool.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back to the Chondro Lounge, episode 15, and we are starting off 2025 with a banger. We have Marcial Mendez on, and we're going to be talking all about albino chondros and all the other stuff he's doing. Actually, just a few days ago, or even like as recent as like yesterday or something, but Marcial has had some heavy hitter clutches back to back, and so I want to talk about that. I'm really excited to jump in and talk to Marcial. I got to meet him probably 2 years ago at Bill's for the first time, and just has always been a really awesome dude to talk to.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. It was the first time I met him at Bill's house, and he's a great dude. He's tall. He's a lot. I went up to him, I was like, wow, you're a lot bigger than I thought you were going to be.
Yeah, exactly. I think the first time I saw him, I was in Bill's snake house, I should say, because it's not a snake room, in his little, out back area. But yeah, I think the first time I saw Marcial, I was literally inside there, and I turned around and I looked at someone's chest right behind me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, and like, I mean, He's a fun dude to talk to, and I'm gonna be honest. Can we stop having guests on with nice heads of hair? Because it's always just like you and like another head of hair, and then you just got this going on up here with me.
As long as you keep it buffed and shined, you're good, man.
That's not shine. I don't know if that's sweat. I just took a shower, so it can't be grease. I don't know. But seriously, Mark Hager, Bill, Alex, Garrick, like the list goes on. Like now, Marshall, can we stop having guys with full heads of hair on the show?
We'll start finding some bald. Who knows? Maybe Gary Shavino will. Gary Shavino doesn't go on anywhere. I know he was just recently on, but he'd be a good bald man to get on.
Yeah, he's a lot better looking than me, though. So can we get somebody a little bit less better looking?
Oh, man. Chuck, before we bring him on, you got anything else?
Nah, let's bring on Marshall. I'm going to talk to him.
All right. Whether you've poured your heart and soul into your reptile business or you've just begun your business journey, AE Foundry has you covered with next-level expertise in graphic design, motion graphics, videography, photography, and so much more. If you've been dying for a new logo for your reptile business, motion graphics for your current logo, a new website, or need assistance making your video podcast come to life, then listen carefully. AE Foundry's mission places storytelling at its core. AE Foundry believes that a distinctive story and background are the driving forces that set your brand apart. In today's market, consumers seek more than just products. They crave a connection built on trust with the brands they cherish. AE Foundry is committed to empowering small businesses and fostering authenticity that resonates with their consumers. Reach out to them and let them help you craft a visual narrative that helps establish a genuine and lasting connection with your audience. To contact AE Foundry, email them at aromero@aefoundry.com or on Instagram at AE Foundry. Marshall, what's going on?
Good evening, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Oh, man.
How's it going?
It's good. It's good. I got a lot of breeding questions for you today, too, because I'm jumping into my first pairing, so I'm excited to hear that, to hear more about that. I know this is kind of like a lame way to start an episode, but can you talk a little bit about like Red Mountain Herp and just kind of what you're working with and what you're about?
Yeah, so Red Mountain Herp is basically my, snake business that I've been into snakes since I was a kid, first or second grade. I don't know exactly how old I was, but very young. And when I got out of college, I invested a little money and, after the first year that I produced babies, which was my third or fourth year, it's been like a profitable, not a ton of money every year. Some years, a lot of money. It's just kind of, been up and down, but it's all been built off itself. So, I didn't go crazy buying a bunch of stuff. I bought a bunch of babies to get started with and took my time, raised them up. And, everything that I have now is basically, 20, I can't even keep track anymore. I started Red Mountain Herp, or what would have been Red Mountain Herp, in 1998. So 25 years, 26 years, something like that, of blood, sweat, and tears, basically. But so Red Mountain is a mountain here in Birmingham, Alabama, and where I live. And I was kind of when I was trying to figure out a new name. I guess it's been about 5 years ago that I guess you could say rebranded. Came up with a nice logo and wanted to have a name that wasn't just Marcial Mendez Reptiles, or I'd gone by had a website, chondrolicious.com, for a while, and that was not great because it doesn't represent everything that I do anymore. At that point, I was strictly chondros.
Was that during the time of like the Fergalicious song coming out?
I don't know. It was most of the time that until it was Red Mountain Herp. Maybe not the whole time, but 3 or 4 years into it, okay. I kind of came up with that. My friend John Romano and I did. Awesome. He's an old school chondro guy. He's how I got introduced to Trooper Walsh, and we had not only snakes in common, but music, and we might have been let's say a little inebriated at a show one night and come up with Chondrolicious, and at the time it sounded like a great idea. So in retrospect, like I said, at the time that's what I was working with and nothing else. And since I have added the ball pythons and the colubrids and the emeralds and little of this, little of that, I wanted something that was just kind of more general, more broad. So came up with Red Mountain Herp about 5 years ago, and so yeah, I mean that's how I got here.
You're working with some awesome species. I saw that you were working also with Amazon tree boas, and I got my first one, and I love it, man. And it likes hiding in its hide and not perching up. It's got a decent size enclosure for it, but I just remembered it was always in its hide, and I would just clean around and feed it. And I felt like I hadn't held it in a while, and I literally popped open the hide. It looked like it doubled in size within like a 3-month period. It was insane. It got so much longer.
Yeah, they're cool too. They I don't have a ton of them. I've got maybe 6 or 8 adults, and then some holdback babies. And I like them. I don't want to dedicate more cage space than I already have to them. So just because I do like the other arboreals better, but they are cool.
Right.
And they're an easy species for somebody who just kind of wants to get into arboreals. They're kind of, the care is pretty similar. You certainly can keep them the same. They're a little easier to keep. I would say keep and breed. A little more tolerant of they don't have, the temperatures don't have to be as high, and they can tolerate a broader range of conditions than the other ones. But the morphs are cool, and they're just their personality is cool. Unless it's something that you really want to hold. I don't handle mine a ton. They can be a little. I've never really been bit by one, I would say, but
they're more look like they want to mess you up, but they don't always strike.
That's right. Yeah, they're just very alert, like a chondro or emerald. You can open a tub, take the perch out, sit it to the side, change the water, clean it, do all the stuff. It's not going to move. In Amazon, you open the cage and it's like all up in your business. Like wants to know, like, hey, what's up? Like, what are you doing? What do you, and you can't just like set the perch on the table because they fucking take off, So they're, they don't, like I said, I have not personally been bitten by, at least not a big one. They'll look like they're going to bite you, and they'll, like I said, kind of get up in your business. But as far as actually being bit, I've not been bit by one yet. So,
yeah, I got lucky. Mine's a captive bred and very, very, very easy and manageable. It does not mind being held at all. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about them, and then we'll curtail off of the Amazon tree boas, but only thing I don't like about them is that, like, I feel like they're morphology, like they're like the morphs. I don't understand. I don't understand how you take 2 orange snakes, put them together, and you come out with Halloweens. I don't understand how you take 2 red snakes together and you don't get a red baby. It's just like it's a crapshoot. It's like you never know what you're gonna get. It's like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is still, it's based off of information that we know, or the results people have had. But I don't think we really know 100%.
I don't think
I
don't think they follow Mendelian genealogy much or genetics much.
Yeah. Or there's other genes at play,
Right.
So, but yeah, they're cool, but they're not on the level with chondros, in my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you. I don't think that they touch them. So the chondros. When you got in, did you start heavy hitter with the morph stuff, or did you get into some locality stuff first?
Yeah. When I first started, I bought kind of a mix. So. I bought, I think I had like a sarong, a jaya, Beox, of course, a ruse. And then I bought both. So I also bought some, I think maybe ended up with 4 or 5 snakes over the years from Greg Maxwell. So that's where I got my calico stuff. He was also working at the time with Lemon Tree, which was a high yellow bloodline. It's pretty much fizzled out now. I've only heard of like one pairing in the last probably 8 or 9 years. Now I don't really know what happened to those. I remember seeing some of the babies and they were real nice, but I don't know what happened to them or who else is working with them anymore. But I had some of that. I had Tiger Stripe was something that came along later, but I picked it up from Rico. I was pretty close to Rico Walder, who passed away about 10 years ago. He was up in Chattanooga, so about 3 hours away, and I would, go up there all the time. And the Tiger Stripe is one of the things that I picked up from him. What else did I have? So I guess the answer to your question is a little bit of both. But as the years went on, I basically quit buying the locality stuff. And, a lot of my animals that I have have just been, I guess, I haven't really ever traced it out, but they're probably F4, maybe F5 animals now, something like that, from, those first original animals that I bought, however long ago.
I feel like that's better than most, if I'm being honest. I mean, to still have some of those animals that you started off with, that's pretty impressive.
Well, no. It's 4 or 5 generations removed from those first animals.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. No. The oldest animal that I have is Versace, and that's my pet albino. He's from Trooper Walsh animal, got him directly from Trooper. He's half Maruki and half, I call it just TW Blue, which is kind of like, Trooper's bloodlines were, and it kind of makes sense now that, I see the same thing in Versace, this particular animal, in that, he can throw a wide range of phenotypes. He's produced he can throw, high blue, high yellow, melanistic, just, even within one clutch. I have a clutch of, I think I have 7 or 8 holdbacks from, which, they were all holdbacks, but 7 or 8 that have survived from 2022 clutch. And they're so completely different even from each other. And, you've got the high blue, you've got, high yellow, high black, all siblings. So that's the Trooper bloodlines, I think, is where that comes from,
Yeah, I think Versace is one of those animals that when he's done and he passes away, he's going to have his own episode just like Jaeger did.
Versace's in Jaeger's lineage, right?
No.
No.
No, they're not.
But what's crazy though is both of them tend to throw clutches that can go so many different directions. You see Jaeger stuff that ends up being high yellow. You see Jaeger stuff that's black. Jaeger stuff that has blue. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, lineage is not my one of my the things I'm good at.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me neither, honestly.
There's people that geek out hard about it. I like it, but I don't memorize it. And again, my loyalty always stands with locality over morphs or designers. So, but no, Versace is a legend, and he's got that cute little, I don't know, what is it? That little tag that he has on his neck.
Yeah. It's like started off as just a raised scale. Like I've got my, how Google Photos or, whatever, it'll show you like a memory this day 10 years ago or this day 6 years ago, whatever. I had one pop up the other day that I had taken a photo of it for the first time. And I think it was like 2014 or 2015, something like that. And it was basically just a scale that was yellow, but it was just slightly like, I don't know, it looked just a little bit different than all the ones that surrounded it. And it's just, like it's like a tick, man, or something. I don't know. Like as the years have gone on, it's just gotten, I'm wondering if it's like, every time he sheds, like another layer gets added to it or something like that, I don't know.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah,
but I saw that for the first time when I was scrolling through your page. I didn't know that, but it's crazy that he's still going. If he pulls off a clutch in 2025, that's going to be legendary.
Well, one of the two clutches that were just laid was sired by him. So hopefully at least a few of them go the distance.
Yeah, so let's actually, I want to talk a little bit about those clutches that you have on the ground. They hatch what, back-to-back days, or basically like 3 days apart or something?
They were laid back to back. Yeah, the females ovulated back to back days, and then the clutches were laid back to back days.
Perfect.
Kind of wish I was going to say I kind of wish they were spaced out a little bit more, because if they were to all go the difference, it's going to be a shitload of babies to be dealing with at one time.
Yeah,
but
one clutch was like 22 eggs.
The larger of the two is 26.
Oh, that's nuts.
I believe, and the smaller one is 17, but I've lost a couple of them. There was like a boob egg on that one, and there's 2 or 3 others that they're slugs, but they don't I'm not one to like candle stuff immediately. I'll put it in the incubator for a couple of days, and like here after a week or usually 2 weeks, I'll start candling everything. And in the meantime, 3 or 4, however many will go bad. So I have tossed a few out of the smaller clutch, the 17. But so far of the 26, I believe all those still look good.
That's a lot of babies around the corner, man.
Yeah, I'm getting like PTSD over it. I'm getting all like anxious and sweating.
What was your large clutch, Chuck?
21 eggs, 19 hatched.
That's
good. Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. So what were the pairings for those 2 clutches? And I guess like what was your thinking with those pairings and what you're trying to accomplish?
So let's see. So the first clutch was a Versace bred to a calico tiger stripe.
Okay.
So my calico stuff comes from Calico Junior. So Calico Junior was the son of the computer chondro, which was the high yellow one. Cal Junior was the high black one. And
that's a killer animal.
Yeah, my male that he's long since died, but he was the father of these animals that bred, which they are, I think, 2019s. So they're 6 years old now. And that animal was an offspring. No, take that back. I scratch that. See, this is like the lineage. Like I remember calico, like I don't remember exactly which snake. I'd have to go back and look at the pedigrees and then realize they were different. But this animal came from, I posted here in the last month or 2 months, like some really black snakes that were, that I had about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. And they were both calico lines. So the male that I kept from that pairing was, pretty concentrated calico blood. Anyway, he was the sire of the clutch of the female. And then the mom was a tiger stripe Biak outcross. Okay. So I bred the 2 of them, I bred that female. The idea was I wanted to get Versace blood and potentially the albino gene into the calico and tiger stripe, or into the calico line, because thus far I've not made any poshet calico animals. So I've got pretty good amount of tiger stripe Versace holdbacks, but no calico Versace. So this was the first time I wanted to try to do that,
So Versace is the het albino, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then how many females do you have that are also definitely het? 2 or 1?
Well, now 0. Now the mom of the albino clutch from last season, she died before the eggs had even hatched.
Damn.
So yeah, she was the only known het that I had. She produced the albino that I have now, and then she had produced one several years prior to that didn't end up making it.
With you?
So I knew she was ahead.
Okay.
So now I've got quite a few poshet females that are coming up, but no 100%.
Man,
Damn, that's tough. And now
any other males that you have that are
not 100%. They're all. I have a ton. I say a ton. I've got 4 or 5 50% heads.
Yeah.
But no 100% heads. So I mean, the ideal situation would be that this albino that I have now, assuming that it survives and makes it to breeding age, would be a male. Because then I have, I've got 6 by that time, 6, 8, 10 poshet females would be ready to go to breed them with.
Right.
If it's a female, or it doesn't make it, then I'm kind of back to just trial and error.
Versace on life support.
Yeah, right.
We're finding a way to take him through.
Yeah. I mean, he still eats. He's in shed right now. He's still, you can tell he's kind of getting old, like he'll, when he strikes, he's not really accurate. I'll open the door sometimes and he'll just like kind of fall, like drop off the perch with his mouth open, like, not fall out of the cage, but just like, you can tell he's getting old. He's not quite as with it as he should be, or would have been as a normal snake in his prime. He's starting to get cataracts in one eye. So
it's
who knows how much longer he'll be around.
It's cool to see a snake go through that you've had for such a long time. Though, like, don't get me wrong, it's hard to see, especially when the snake has meant so much to you. But like, just to see it kind of going through it, man, it's living a long life. I mean, to the point where it's developing cataracts. That's, you're getting old when you get cataracts, right?
Yeah. And the fact that he's still able to breed is just it's insane.
No, I agree.
So I guess, be awesome if he were to sire a clutch this year. I don't know if if some of these eggs go on to hatch, which I'm assuming at least a few of them will. He'll be whatever. He was born in 01, so or hatched in 01. So these babies would be siring a clutch at whatever he is, 23 years old, 24 years old, something like that.
Damn.
I'm proud of him.
That's
I'm
like
proud
you
of
running
him.
around.
He can't walk.
80.
He can't talk, but he could still breed.
Right.
That's the kind of old. Yeah, that's the kind of old guy I want to be. Just feed me porridge, and that's it. Just take care of me.
Wipe
the
ass
beans. Yeah, there you go, and then let me breed.
That's funny, man.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I wanted to. So as we get further into the albino topic, I got some more questions. But before we do that, I want to jump into just the second clutch that you have on the ground right now, and then we'll turn our attention to the albino stuff, because I want to know the whole history about all that.
So the second clutch is let me think about this. So the second clutch is it is a sib to the female from the first clutch. So calico tiger stripe male bred to a Versace tiger stripe female, who is the blue. She's one of the two. Well, I guess both females are pretty blue. She's the more melanistic one. She was the one that laid the larger clutch. So
she looked great around those eggs.
What's that?
She looked great around those eggs. As a matter of fact, I'm about to open it up on Instagram real quick. I forgot that we do that.
Yeah. So she was a Versace offspring, but I have bred her with Versace before. She's the mom of my 2022 clutch. And there were no albinos produced in that clutch. And I think there was 11 babies. So, head to head, there should have been 25%. I mean, yes, there's an off chance that just missed the odds and she is ahead. But most likely she's not. So I don't think there's any possibility for albinos in this clutch, or I'm sorry, for het, for any babies to be het. So these babies would be, I think I've done just kind of the percentages in my head. The first clutch would be 50% Versace, 25% calico, 25% tiger stripe. This clutch will be 50% tiger stripe, 25% calico, 25% Versace. So kind of the same bloodlines, but this second one will be more heavily concentrated tiger stripe than the first,
which I'm all about. She looks beautiful on the clutch of eggs right there, and I love that yellow ventral scales you could see on the bottom of her. Does she have that like throughout her body?
You know, I don't. The sides, yes, but I think pretty sure the ventral side is white or not quite as yellow.
Cool.
Not quite as yellow as that.
Yeah. No, she's a beautiful girl. That she did a great job too. And then this was that first pairing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I love the diamonds
So
on that.
That animal is half calico, half tiger stripe. That female.
Okay, awesome.
And hey, she was bred to Versace.
Question for you, Marshall. These animals specifically, like how closely related is their lineage chart? Are they line bred pretty heavily, or is there a little bit of like diverse like blood in there? Like, do you have any outcross?
No, they're pretty diverse. The female that is Versace offspring, she was, Versace is like I was saying earlier, 50% Maruki, 50% TW. And her mother was tiger stripe, so half tiger stripe, half Biak. So there's basically no inbreeding or no line breeding with her.
That's Versace right
there. Gotcha. Because we typically see just larger clutches out of like locality animals or locality outcrosses. That's why I was asking, because I know you have a lot with the albino stuff. I mean, you're almost forced to heavily line breed.
You have to. And I mean, the moment that you get a male or female that makes it to breeder age and that's healthy, that's in my opinion when you got to start doing your best to outcross. And I mean, you could take it many directions, right? Like I can imagine you, Marshall, like you have I don't know if you want to like prioritize and take other designers to the visual albino stuff, but like in my mind, I'm thinking from like a genetically superior standpoint is I would almost want to take like a friggin' import locality to it that's close, like the same region of the albino, just to like make sure that like we're trying to get as far from any line breeding or inbreeding depression as possible.
Yeah. And that's kind of been the thing, like I've done Versace to daughter, obviously to get the albinos that I have, but I've not taken it past that point.
Yeah.
Like I've never bred him to one of his grandchildren that I can think of.
Okay.
Plus, I mean, the fact that he's has lived for so long has made it to where like I haven't had to breed any of his offspring together,
Right. Exactly.
So.
Go to that one.
That one?
No.
Oh, okay. Because before.
Well, that's the albino, but I wanted to see the
this one.
Yeah,
that's
cool. I love that. Just it's all like equal every single color. It's like just perfect.
Yeah, that snake is has been used for the like cover photo on the Green Tree Python group for a while, multiple times on and off. That's a snake that I produced in, I don't know, it's been a while. I think that picture that I think is about 10 years old, that just popped up on my phone a couple days ago. But I believe that is a Versace line animal. I don't think it's calico. I'm pretty sure it's Versace. I have to go back and look it up to be 100% sure. But that snake ended up in the UK a long time ago.
That's wild that snake didn't stay in your collection.
Yeah,
it's an insane looking animal.
Yep.
All right, man. Are you kind of the same as Bill from this standpoint? in regards to hold on, there we go. In regards to being able to so do you sell a lot of animals that are really, really nice? Like I know Bill's like, yeah, you get a friggin' Lambo, you get a Lambo, and he's just like, yeah, everyone gets a nice chondro. What's kind of your method in regards to like, what do you sell them young? Do you hold on to them?
No, I mean, the last chondro that I sold was in 2000 and I want to say 17, 16 or 17,
Marshall.
something like that. And it's really been holding thing. Well, one thing is that I haven't produced a ton. Okay. I've produced a clutch or two a year in small numbers. So like, I can't think of the last time I even produced like more than a dozen that ended up doing great, you know, and the dozen was one out of those however many years that's been, 7 or 8 years. So, and I've had pretty good success with other species, emeralds, ball pythons, to where, you know, it didn't make sense for me to sell them. And I wanted, so for the last, whatever, 7 years, I have been holding everything back, trying to get the colony size of green tree pythons up, to where, you know, eventually I would like to really scale down the ball pythons. Because I mean, if you go snake for snake, they're, you know, I don't have an exact number, but they're 65, 70% of the collection. I'd like to get that way down, like to where they're, you know, 10%.
Yeah.
So, but in order for me to do that, just because they're a lot of work, you know, you've got to do the rodents because of them. I've got to, you know, they're bigger snakes, you know, you do retics, so you know how it is. I mean, a bigger snake is just more work. And when you have a lot of them, it's, you know, that's a lot more work. You know, the chondros is time, right? So you have a bunch of baby chondros. It's going to be time consuming to try to get them all feeding, but it's time that you're spending with the snakes, not like out in the rodent house or, you know,
Or
it's not physical, it's not physical work. Yeah, exactly. It's not physical work. It's more, I mean, it is physical work, but it's not quite as, you know, there's more finesse involved. It's more technique. It's more, you know, than
it's patience.
Stop agreeing with him. Stop, Lucas. Stop agreeing. He's literally telling us he's keeping all of his eggs this year and not selling any to us. Stop agreeing with him.
Hold on.
You are an enabler.
I'm just saying it's patience to feed those babies. That's all I was
you should
agreeing
say
about.
That is a very dumb theory.
Yeah, send them over to me. I'll get them established.
That many green trees. It's nothing but problems.
No, but on a real note, I'm sorry, but like if I have the ticket to an albino chondro and the clutches that I'm producing are pos hets, and I'm the only person in the U.S. that's hatched out an albino chondro, and who knows how long, I guess Marshall could probably tell us, I'm probably not selling animals either. It's something that you gotta, can you imagine you trying year after year after year to hit on the pos hets and you don't, but you're selling snakes and someone else produces an albino chondro? I would lose my shit. I'd go crazy. I don't know if your mindset is in that ballpark area. Like you're producing clutches and keeping pos hets back, but
yeah, I'm not doing it so much because I'm worried about somebody else doing it. I'm doing it because I want to do it, you know,
and you need the best odds, which means you need to keep the most snakes.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of
like
where
I said,
was going with that.
I've had a bunch of empty cages, you know, like when there was a point in time where I had a lot of snakes here on breeding loan. And I had, you know, I've got the cages, I've got, you know, now with the holdbacks that I have now, once I bump them up, which they're all pretty much due to be bumped up now to their, you know, final adult cages, I'll have 0 empty adult cages. So the last, you know, 6 years or so of holding things back will finally have done what I, you know, was working towards, which was fill my chondro cages back up again with chondros.
Yeah.
So
it's always a good day when you can do that.
yeah, I mean, if I produce like 40 babies again next year, there's no way I can keep them all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be hard if it's going to be hard to keep 40. Although my kind of MO,
you can keep them for a year.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. I mean, my MO has always been don't sell anything until it changes. At least not that's been going on for a dozen years or 15 years since I've actually sold a baby. I think it's Bill. Everybody gets bangers from Bill because he sells babies, right? And I mean that's kind of what you're buying when you buy a Jaeger or a sickness baby or whatever. You've got a really good chance of that baby turning out to be something really, really special. And my theory is if an animal turns out that way, I want to have this snake. Right. I don't want somebody else to have it.
It's kind of like that reminder, like you move that snake out and you're like,
right. Yeah. So, but eventually I will have to, it just depends, man. It just depends on how many babies am I going to hatch in a year, and how many did I hatch the year before? How many open tubs do I have? Like, I'm at a point now where I'm maxed out from a production standpoint, at least with, if I keep doing the colubrids and keep doing the ball pythons and, I'm pretty much a one-man show with the exception of my teenage son who helps me a little bit. He's about to be off at school next year. So, I'll be limited. I'm not trying to add more cages than I have. So I'm just trying to, manage the infrastructure, call it, that I've got in the best way possible. So if that means, holding back all the chondros until I can fill those cages up again, then that's what I'll do. Fortunately I don't, I've got a regular job besides this, and I don't, I'm not doing this. I mean, yes, the money's nice and I enjoy the business. I enjoy the business side of all this too, and the marketing and, doing the podcasts and, all that kind of stuff. I do like the business side of things too, but at the end of the day, I don't need the money from the snakes. So I'm not motivated to buy money, at least to sell them. So
do you plan on keeping all the babies from this year if you're lucky enough to have?
I mean, if I'm going to keep them until they most likely until they change color. Maybe I'll let a few go just so people will stop saying I don't sell shit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't keep them all. But again, we're still a long way away from having viable babies that are ready to sell. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, everything could go great, and I could hatch 40 of them and they all eat right off the bat, but the odds of that happening are pretty slim. In my experience, the ones that are going to go from an egg to a baby that's established are, it just depends on overall. I would say 70%, maybe 65, 70%. Sometimes you'll get a clutch and they all go, and sometimes you get a clutch and one goes.
It's funny you say that. I always say however many eggs you're given that are good, if you can hatch out 2/3, it's 100% hatch rate in my personal opinion.
Right. No, exactly.
There's expected loss.
And on top of that, and I haven't experienced it yet, but like I said, I mean, there's a reason why not a lot of people are breeding chondros compared to other species. And I mean, also the work you got to put into the neonates is ridiculous, right? So, I mean, I feel I bet it's a huge undertaking when people have 5, 6, 8, 10 clutches go and their success rates are high like that. That sounds like a stressful 6 months to come.
Yeah. If you, I always say, if you got 20 eggs and you start talking like you're going to have 20 babies and where they're going to go, that's a very foolish way to think.
Right. So you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Marshall, I got a question, and I don't know that this has ever been asked. Are there albinos or het albinos that you know of for sure in the U.S. that are not in your collection.
No.
There's pos heads though, right?
There are, yes. Anybody who has a Versace baby or a Versace line animal has pos heads. And I mean, he's produced, I don't know, I'll have to figure it up someday like Bill did when Jaeger passed away, how many exact clutches and how many exact babies he's had. But I mean, he's pretty much sired at least one clutch every year since his first clutch, which I believe was 2004 or something like that. So, or 2005 wild. Maybe. Wow. So, I mean, he's produced a shitload of babies. So yes, I mean, the blood is out there. I can't tell you for sure. I mean, I know Garrick has one. He actually got. He posted it on his Instagram a couple weeks ago, and that's actually the last chondro that I sold. And he that from 2016, and he managed to get it.
It was Garrick that got his hands on it.
Yeah. So that animal is a possible het.
Okay. So Marshall, one thing. So I have the picture up of the albino chondro that you have right now. I hope that's its name, by the way, just like albino chondro.
It's unnamed at this point, but we can call it that. Yeah.
It's bad. Yeah, it's bad. I was gonna say it's bad luck to give them names before they start changing.
Right. Well, I will say it's already changing, but so take me through this real quick, and then we'll get a little bit into the history of albino chondros. But when you pop out a baby and you're looking at a neonate like this, how the hell do you know that's albino? I mean, it definitely looks atypical from a red neo, but
it's quite odd. Yeah, it was quite odd to see that was an albino, but I mean, you proved it with what you're going to say.
Yeah, so there's really three things that you look for. One of them, so you can see the picture right before that was right as it was coming out of the egg, and I knew immediately what it was. Not that one. That
one?
Yeah, the one. Yeah, that one. So that's it with his head out of the egg. And you can see it's got a distinct look from the other one.
Like pink.
Yeah. So they are dark. I've had some before that were way darker than this one was. This one's kind of more of like I don't know what you would call it, like a cherry red, maybe. Kind of a dark red, but I mean, one of the ones in the one that survived longest before this one, was really dark as a baby, like kind of almost darker maroon color, almost like the one that's outside the egg, but even darker than that. You look for the red pupil.
The one outside the egg, and I just want to show this picture that you posted. Wild. That is wild.
Yeah, that's not it, but still.
That's not. I thought I had that.
That thing's cool.
Oh no, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's the same. That's the baby that was coiled up around the egg. Yes.
That's not the albino. That's the other one. I was just saying.
That's right.
Really cool animal.
Yeah, I think one of his eyes is. I mean, obviously, one of his eyes is screwed up. I don't know what the deal is with it exactly. It's as he gets bigger, but he's had it since he hatched. But so you look for the red pupils. You look for basically no black anywhere on the snake. So like where if you look at like that photo around the baby pattern where there would normally be black, there's a very faint yellow or orange here. It doesn't have any true black anywhere on it. And then the third thing is the pink tongue. So really the pink tongue and the red pupils are the pupils are 100%. It's got to have those. There's a lot of snakes that have a pink tongue that are not albino, and it's just a weird thing. But they've all thus far had the red pupils and pink tongue. And the tail is white or yellow. Again, no black anywhere on it.
Cool.
And at this point, I've produced enough of them where I could just, I look at them and they just, like you're saying, they're atypical, but they all kind of have something. And if you hit the Albino Chondro hashtag, it'll pull up a bunch of ones that I've hatched over the years, and they all kind of have a similar, similar look.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're yeah.
Like that one, right?
Which one?
Let's see. The one, is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah, the one right there in the center. Yeah. That one was a really dark baby. That one, that's the one that lived to be about 2 years old.
Okay. Yeah, that's a awesome looking animal. And again, you can kind of see the eyes and what you're talking about.
Yeah, see the eyes, see how the pattern doesn't have any black around it, or it's got like real faint yellow or orange around it. But again, and that snake kind of on the right there was the one, was the same snake as it matured.
Okay. Now, this is a really cool thing to see. This was an updated, your most updated pic that you posted. This was 2 weeks ago, and you can already start to see like that's a, I don't know. That OCC also tells me like, yeah, that thing is definitely going yellow. Typically with the red neos, you see them go dark first. And this one just like literally, I saw this picture that you posted and I freaked out. I was like, holy crap, that snake is starting to already look great.
Can I ask why it's grounded?
Yeah, it had a small prolapse. I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago. And so I took the perches out. Of just having doing the podcast, you learn different things. I've learned all kinds of stuff doing it. Like I'm sure you guys have from just talking to different people, and
right.
how some people do certain things. And I can't remember who it was, but multiple people have suggested that when there's a prolapse, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. The animal's perched up, and you've seen them sometimes when they perch up. Their guts are kind of squished over on one side or the other. Like this way, it kind of takes that out and kind of takes away the ability for the snake to put pressure on the tail by either putting too much of its weight against the vent or squishing things one way or the other. So basically it's got that little hide box that you see. And what it does is it usually is, 95% of the time it's perched up on that hide box in the same shape as if it would be if it was on a perch, but instead it's just sitting on the hide box.
And it's the pressure's more evenly distributed, which allows for less pressure to be coming out on the back end for a prolapse.
That's right.
It makes sense. I mean, it
makes sense. Yeah.
You think about like if you were to sit like on if you were to sit like on the monkey bar of a playground, right? It's a lot of pressure in a very focused, condensed area. Here it's able to kind of just spread out that pressure. That's right. Mean, whoever thought to do that, it like me hearing it, and after you told me when I reached out to you, I was like, oh yeah, duh, common sense. But like whoever first thought of that was pretty genius.
Yeah, 100%. I believe Patrick told me about it. He mentioned it, and I believe Socrates. Of course, he also does it. So yeah, and again, does it do anything? Who knows? But it doesn't hurt. In my opinion, it's not hurting anything, and it makes sense. I'll give it a shot. Anyway, it was a very small prolapse. So that's why it doesn't have a perch. I'm going to keep the perch off. I'm just waiting for it to. It's already pooped one good time since it had the prolapse, and it was okay. So I mean, I'm hopeful that it's going to be fine.
I had two that did that, and I did the same thing, and they're both still alive.
Yo, are you going to send me homeboy with the battle wound that you decided that you wanted to try and kill?
No, I gotta keep that one. I don't think Marcial even heard of that one. Did you hear?
Hear that story?
I sent the tongs through the neck of a snake.
Oh, no, I think maybe I did. Maybe you did tell me that.
Yeah, I super glued it. It's doing fine. It's eating better than some of its siblings alive.
Nice.
Nothing a little glue. I mean, that's what doctors say, right? Nothing a little glue can't fix.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
that was a definitely an oopsie. Yeah,
What a
I
nonchalant way to freaking.
let's get back to the positive things, prolapses. So yeah, I had two separate snakes both do at once, and I had to reinsert both with the preparation H cream and all that stuff. But yeah, I did the same thing you did. I didn't put a hide box in there though. I like that. That's a cool technique. I only had a very shallow water bowl, and they decided to perch on that. So
See, you guys are missing.
Yeah,
Go for it, Marshall.
I was just going to say the problem with the water bowl is that they'll perch on it, as you know. So they'll perch if you like I use just disposable, plastic deli cups, and they'll perch on those. So it's got like one of those little ceramic I don't know, it's like a 2-inch diameter ceramic water bowl. Yeah. So and I keep the bottom, the way my room is set up. I've got heavy ventilation, so I've got like a big box fan basically blowing directly on the rack. So I pretty much keep the paper towels damp almost all the time. So I didn't want it basically, sitting in wetness all the time. So if it gets on the hide box, and it can, get up, get itself dry. So that was the main reason for it.
I was going to say, you guys are missing out when you have large snakes like retics that decide to prolapse. You, instead of using Q-tips, you get to use your finger to just push things back in.
One last question about it. Is it on? I mean, it looks like it's eating stuff with fur. Is it eating stuff with fur on it yet?
Oh yeah. It's I mean, it's good to go. From a feeding standpoint. I mean, it's on. Yeah.
I mean, typically when we see prolapses, it's like before they're on like fuzzies or hoppers.
Yeah, this was right at the time. And I mean, as a matter of fact, I kind of was afraid that I was so like trying to get it on hoppers that I gave it one, and that's when it prolapsed was after that meal. So I don't know if that one meal had, did it or what. But I was definitely pushing it to get to that. Like as soon as I fed it, I was like, God, maybe that was a little bit too big. But I fed it to all three of them, and all three of the babies that I had from last year, and that was the only one that prolapsed. So
I'll make you feel better about it. I mean, maybe, but I have a one-eyed snake that would not eat on its own. I've since somebody else has it now. They're going to give it, more attention than I'm able to, because I have 35 of them right now. Anyway, it would never bite, wrap, and strike all at once. It only bit once. It was a pain in the butt. So I was like, all right, let me get it bigger. It's going to die anyway if I just keep on popping pinky heads in its mouth. So I just fed it. It ate 3 pinkies in a row. One feeding. It was monstrous. Okay. It looks like it ovulated, and it handled it fine. And that was a snake. And but I got to get it bigger. It's not eating on its own. It's 20-something grams still right now at 10 months old, and all of its siblings are close to 100. Yeah. So if you're just sustaining it if you don't give it more meals or push it. So I agree with what Marshall did. Like, you should give him bigger meals to get him across. Like, but 3 pinkies, I was pushing it because it was 9 months old or 8 months old and like 20 something grams. Yeah. So, but it handled it fine. And that was the baby that prolapsed only a couple of weeks after being born. So I figured there was a very good chance that it would do it again, but it didn't.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a statement, right? And again, everyone needs to take this with a grain of salt, because I've been looking into chondros for a decade. I've only kept them for a year and a half now. But one thing that I consistently see a lot of with chondros is I think that we fragilize them a lot. Like, I think a lot of people fragilize their ability to take a larger meal, their ability to digest. A lot of people told me that, like, when I got I got some Biocs from Patrick that were like 4 months old. I got an animal from Bill that was only 6 months old, and they were like, "Yeah, how are you going to keep it?" And I'm not saying they as in Patrick and Bill, but people are like, "Yeah, how are you keeping it?" And I keep all of my animals ambient, and they're like, "You're going to keep even babies on ambient like that? You're not going to give them more heat to digest?" And I'm like, "No, it's 84 degrees, daytime high, daytime low is 81 unless it's winter." All of my chondros are shitting amazing, and they even at this time of the year, they're eating and they're shitting amazing. And I even have one of Mark's babies right now that I think is only 6-7 months older. My garage is getting to 74 degrees at night, and they have no supplemental heat. So they're doing great. I think that they're a lot more robust than we tend to give them, but I will say just the albinos have just been known to not have a lot of that robustness to them. So I think I would err very much on the side of caution if I was in your shoes. Like I can validate the idea of, like, I don't know, just not wanting to fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's one train of thought, and sometimes it's like, like, do I want this thing to survive if you have to baby it,
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people try to force life on these animals, and they clearly weren't meant to survive.
I firmly believe too, one of the biggest causes of death for green tree pythons is people carrying them to death.
Yeah,
sure.
They think they know what the snake wants, and they want it to be pretty in their house, when realistically all it needs is a $15 tote and some paper towels and a dog bowl.
Right. I mean, a lot of people's, especially a newer keeper, their first instinct is to always do something. They think
they're
they
dumping
have to do
isopods.
right.
Just the desire to want to do something when, I'm going to say most of the time inaction is probably the better thing, and wait a couple days and see what happens. Or, not just do something just for the sake of, I feel like I got to do something, and that just comes with experience. I mean, yes, there are some times when you need to intervene because of, one thing or another, but, if the snake did something a little weird, like, don't freak out. You don't have to, that doesn't require an action from you right away.
Right.
I just got a video of poop, so from somebody that I have to look at after this. That's why I was staring at my phone. Someone's like, "Yeah, what's this poop? Is this poop okay?" I don't know.
Oh man, I've had people send me that, and I'm like, "No, what you're looking at is a regurg."
You know what though? I do appreciate people not taking action and just saying, "Hey," asking somebody, "Hey, look at this. Like, should I do anything or should I not worry about it?" I like the people that ask a lot of questions. I think those are the people that be successful keepers.
No, I mean, one of the things that, like, I hated being new in the retic industry is when I would reach out to people who knew, right, and they wouldn't give me the time of day, and so I probably overextend myself with how often I answer questions. It was funny, before we were talking about how time consuming it is to, the patience with establishing chondros, and my wife likes to complain, like, "Hey, you're always in the snake garage." And I'm like, "Just wait till I produce chondros." I was like, "You're never going to see me." Like, So before we talk a little bit more about this specific animal that you produced, Marcial, when you got into the albino project, did you know that you had it? Like, did you know that you were going for it, or was it something that fell on your lap? Was it spontaneous? Well, clearly not spontaneous, but were you just like, "Oh shit, I hit the odds," or did you strategically try to buy possets?
No, I purchased Versace prior to the first albino being produced, just by luck.
Damn.
So I bought him in what would have been like summer or fall of 2001. And then the first albino that was produced by Damon Salces was produced in basically a year later. So he unveiled it at the Daytona show in 2002. So knowing the lineage of the pairing that Damon did that produced the first albino, I knew that my animal, Versace, was a descended from the same line as that snake, and so therefore he was a poshet. So essentially, I don't know if you guys know the whole history, how the albino gene was discovered, how it came about, where it came from. Basically, the Barkers, Dave and Tracy Barker, had a trio of animals that they got from Cameron at Bushmaster, and they were pure locality Marukis. And so they bred them, and Damon picked up at least a pair, maybe a trio or reverse trio or something. And Trooper picked up an animal that turned out to be a male from that pure locality pairing that the Barkers did. So I knew that both of them had animals from that snake. At the time, Marukis were, pretty high dollar. I think I paid for a pair of captive bred ones at the time, maybe like $5,000 or something like that back in 2002, 2003 money. So whatever that is now.
No, hold on. I will say, like, if you buy 2 captive bred locality animals, especially at the red Neos, you're probably spending about $4,000 anyways.
They were Marukis, right? So they would
yeah, these were just pure locality Marukis. They were yellow.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was before anybody. This was before anybody knew that the white stripe wasn't necessarily going to apply to all babies. Like people were still figuring out that you breed 2 high white Arus together. A lot of times the babies do not come out as nice as the adults.
Yeah.
And that's still the case. Yeah, that's still the case to some degree. I mean, people like Ryan Young, who've been working the project for a while, he's starting to see some pretty good, say babies with a pretty good amount of white. But I still think there's something related to the diet or to them just being in their natural state, natural conditions. Because with most locality animals, I feel like you look at an adult that was, grew up in nature, in the wild, and you look at, 20 captive bred ones, they're going to not look the same. The wild caught ones they just have a different look about them. They have more white, they have richer colors. And I don't know if that's, again, a function of, obviously there's been theories that it could be UV related, or that it could be, my guess is that it's dietary, because there's, people have tried giving them UV and that hasn't really done anything. Not that there's been tons of study done on that.
But one thing I will say, so like someone told me that, so like my Aru adults that I have right now that are being paired, I have UV lighting in there for them. But if people are making the claim that UV lighting is a necessary component or a influence on high white, that means you have to find a way, as these things are neonates, to provide UV lighting for them safely without overexposing them to UV. And no one's putting a neonate and a juvenile in a 18-inch to 24-inch tall enclosure that would be safe enough to even use UV lighting. So that's another aspect as well. It's like, because once it goes through its OCC and then you put it into an enclosure with UV, it went through its OCC. I don't think it's going to gain more white, really.
Yeah,
right.
I wonder also, like, often if it has something to do with the specific snakes in that locality, like in that area. Is it due to natural inbreeding? Because that happens all the time. All snakes in a certain area all look the same. So it makes you almost think, are the white scales on the back of these wild animals, if the natural inbreeding is actually happening, is it really all phenotypical, or is there a little bit of genetics there with the, with that inbreeding that may just refine it? And maybe there's white on snakes that are 200 miles away, but maybe it's just different. And those two, the geno doesn't match up.
That's Ryan Young's theory, is that is that it's, yes, they can both be high white, but you take a high white from over here and a high white from over here, and it might be different genes that are making them high white, and that are not necessarily compatible with each other.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't, and I know nothing about genetics or anything. So
yeah,
it's almost like I have just enough information to be dangerous, but I just want to say I am not an expert. It is completely just, it's just something I've looked at and I've thought about. That's all.
No, I mean, I've done the same thing with the anathoristic and retics. There's so many people that are putting like an anery to an anery and producing animals that aren't aneries. And I've been saying that I think different locality aneries aren't necessarily compatible with other locality aneries. So you're like, because I mean, the whole anery gene is such a mess right now in retics. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, so I'm man, we went off into a whole rabbit hole about different things, but
I'm gonna be honest, this episode is a lot better than the typical, like what we have set up with our timeline and asking questions about breeding.
Unorganized,
I like
unprepared,
this.
Unplanned. It's great.
I know. I'm enjoying it. We're just having a conversation with Marcial Mendez.
Exactly. Freaking legend. So Marcial, you produced that first albino in, you said what year?
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, we kind of straight off topic there, but your question was I trying for the albino? And I guess,
right.
Yeah. So
roundabout was no.
Yeah, no, roundabout is yes. Is that so I knew, just because I knew that so essentially Trooper's animal that is Versace's dad, and Damon's animals that were his first albino's parents were siblings. So I had purchased the snake from Trooper that I knew was from that Maruki pairing, and as soon as Damon produced his albino, I was like, oh shit, Trooper's animal is a poshet, because he's siblings with those snakes. So Trooper then the following year or the year after went on to prove his snake as 100% het when Trooper produced the second albino. So at that point, Versace's status went from, we were calling them at the time 25% het, which is not really a thing, but it's a pos het from a pos het. Right. So we were calling them 25% hets. He went from a 25 to a 50 when
that's
Troopers. You're right. Well, no, I knew the chance was there. Then Trooper proved his out, and then I was like, okay, so now he's a true 50% het. And then it took me, from that point, I started keeping back all the females, and I had 4 females from his first clutch, which was whatever I said earlier, 2004, 2005, something in that area. And I bred them to him. I tried to breed them to all 4 every year, and unfortunately, they took like one went one year, a different one went the next year, a different one went the next year, and finally on the 4th one, I hit an albino.
Jeez.
So yes, I was trying for it. It was long shot odds to begin with. But yeah, from the very moment that the first albino that was produced, that's where my head went. Is, oh shit, I have a pos het.
Right. So the original purchase was not like, oh, albino's in the making, but like once you found out, you were like very focused.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That's crazy. You're talking like ball python talk about green trees. Like that's wild.
It's insane. I mean, the
like
odds
20, like 25% possible head or 50%. That's crazy. And you're talking about green trees.
Right. And not only green trees, but like the only morph that exists in green trees, like an albino chondro. Like don't get me wrong, like I'm on the fence, or I'm on the same side of the fence with Ryan. There's nothing more beautiful than a green python, right? Like than a green tree. Like that's why I love them. I love the designer stuff too, but there's something really captivating about a yellow adult chondro. And not just like a designer yellow, because the yellows are different. It looks like the albinos are more of like a mustard almost.
Like a golden yellow.
Yeah, golden
in
yellow.
Person. They glow. They have this glow to them that, like a high yellow designer doesn't necessarily have.
Right. I'm going to take us off topic real quick, because I find it kind of comical, but I want to go back to this post. I'm not going to lie here. again, I was just talking about how much I love the albino green tree python, but the fact that this is a sibling to the albino chondro and that OCC looks that crazy, it's almost a shame that you have an albino in there, because I bet these snakes are going to turn out amazing.
Well, that one's not actually a sib.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, they're
that's
really
not a
close.
sib.
The numbers are really close together.
They are, yeah, because I produced 4 babies last year. So,
Oh, well, I bet you that one. Oh, well.
and so, yeah, that animal right there that you just pulled up is the lone survivor from its clutch, and it's calico tiger stripe.
Oh, nice. I can't wait to see that thing develop. The
So-
LCC looks insane.
Yeah, I'm psyched about that one. That one's got potential, and then, getting that calico blood mixed with Versace blood, like I've never done that before. So who knows what that could do, and then you got tiger stripe in there too. So
I got another off-topic question. If you guys would just want to keep on going off the rails here.
I mean, you can, and then after I kind of want to start to segue. I want to hear Marcial's breeding process as well. But I like the off-topic questions.
Yeah, I want to creep like down his page like years. Where is that? I think it's a 2019. It is like the sickest emerald I've ever seen. I think it's a northern basin cross. Is it 1902 or 1901 or something?
Are you talking about the one that's like super dark?
No, it's got this ridiculous, like very distinct, unique pattern on its back.
it's an emerald.
Yeah, and I think it's a basin northern hybrid.
Hold on.
Or basin northern cross. I gotta find it. It's insane.
All of them have all the basin northern cross. Well, see, there's the most extreme ones of those that I have produced. I don't have them anymore. I sold them.
I'm scrolling, but I'm listening. I want to show this.
Yeah. So yes, I produced I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 litters over the years of hybrids, basin to northern crosses. And in those 3 or 4 clutches, there was 2 animals, one from one clutch and one from another, that were just like off the charts, crazy, like, one of a kind, never seen anything like it except from other hybrid pairings before, that,
man,
rival the amount of white that like a really nice basin has, but the pattern is different. Most of them have kind of I don't even know how to describe it. It's really, once you see, they're mainly pretty similar to each other. Just kind of, they have very little to no stripe, and just crossbars. And the thing about them is that when I started pairing them, my goal was to get a northern looking animal. What I don't like about northerns is I don't like how the pattern, as you get close to the head, goes from real clean white to just, kind of just dirty. I call it sooty. Some of them just get totally gray the closer you get up to the head.
yeah.
And some people like that, and that's how they are when you find them. But to me, that's a hybrid, and that
Hold on, can you send that to me, Chuck, via send that on my messages and Instagram so I can pull it up.
All right, I'm sending one to you, but there's other pictures. That's not a picture that I'm talking about, but it is. I believe it is the animal, and if it's not, it's still a sick animal. But
yeah, you guys know Tony Nicolai owns that animal now. So I don't know if you know him. He's got current photos of it on his page.
Oh
but
my gosh! I found a cross picture while it's still orange. Hold up, this thing is nuts.
Well, that's not a cross. Yeah, that's just
that's a basin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a basin.
Jeez.
There you go. That is ridiculous. If you got rid of that, I'm gonna be so upset.
I can't see what. Oh yeah, that's the snake that Tony's got now.
Oh my God. I mean, it's got to be my favorite emerald. Like
Oh,
that
here
thing
it
is
is.
so freaking cool.
Here
I'm
it is.
sending it to
Okay.
you right now.
This thing is cool as hell.
Yeah. Like that, when I think that's when I first got started. Yeah, it's when I first got started. It was my first year. And I was like, wow, look at that friggin' thing. Go to the pictures I just sent you. The ones where it's like yellow. And it's
Oh, geez.
yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
those
that has got to
blotches
be
are
one of my
cool.
favorite snakes. It looks like you know what it looks like? It looks like a kid's cartoon, like how they like cartoon up a snake or an AI generated snake. It doesn't even look
Right.
real. I love that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
That is a great animal. Is that a male?
I believe it is a male. Yeah.
I mean, that's just if he could replicate that, that is neat as hell because it's got to be
The-
sexually mature now, right?
yeah.
This year?
Yeah. Tony's got it. I don't know what his plans are for it. You know, he's mainly got basins. I don't see him breeding a female basin to that snake, but who knows? Who knows what he's? I think he just likes to look at it.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
I
a
feel,
cool
I feel
looking
like if it
animal.
was a female, I'd feel better about taking a male basin or a male
Sure.
northern. But it being it's hard
Exactly.
to take a male cross to a female basin when we need more
100%.
basins.
That's right. Yeah, we need more.
Man.
We need more both, but
Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't want to say waste a female basin on that.
Right.
On that kind of pairing.
Oh, I gotta plug my laptop in. It's gonna
So,
die.
real quick, Marshall, before we get into the breeding stuff and everything, I'm curious, like as far as like albinos go, what do you think has been the issue with them being successfully, again, like the lack of robustness that they have to them? Any theories that go around with people that have worked with the project or just people that have been doing this for a long time, on why we can't get them to stay perched?
I mean, not really. I don't know that there's really been enough people that have worked with them. I mean, I'm the only one other than Damon in the U.S. Which Damon, we had him on the show a couple months ago, and his albino, I didn't know this, but his actually went on to produce and had sired some offspring. But the one that the other albino that Trooper had and then Rico had after that, neither of them were ever able to get it to it was never showed any interest in breeding. And then
how long ago was that pairing that the visual made offspring?
Oh, it would have been like,
oh, okay, so this is a while back,
long time ago. Yeah.
Okay.
This would have been like 05, 06, something like that. So yeah, pretty good a while ago. I don't know. I don't know if I have a theory. I'll say that with the exception of the one that lived to 2 years old, which was the one I produced in 2014, I believe, all of them have been runty. So I don't know if that's something that's some deleterious gene that's tied with the albino that causes that. If it's just been bad luck. If you look at the pictures that I think it's in the same post that you had pulled up earlier of the albino when it's in my hand, the one from this year. You can see if you scroll some of the other pictures in that post, its umbilical cord was tied in a knot around itself.
Yeah.
So it didn't. Is that something that's genetic? I don't know. Is it bad luck? I would say that there's been so many of them now because I've produced 6 or 7 over the years, and 6 or 7 to be 0 for 6 or 7, that's probably not luck. You wouldn't think, but who knows? I mean, at this point, for me, it's one of those deals where, it's just been work, time and patience that have gotten the project to this point. And yeah, I mean, if it ends up panning out, great. But at this time, at this point, I've been kind of working it for so long that I'm not going to give up on it. Like whether it's bad gene, maybe one of these days I'll get one that is ends up being super healthy, and it'll change everything. But
Right.
It's just something that I'm just going to keep trying it. Even if this one dies, I'll be trying like hell to breed the pos sets together and figure out which ones are het.
Right. I'm right there with you. I'm hoping that the next couple visuals you produce are males. I just because I mean, you think about like how long it takes for them to be sexually mature versus a female. I'm going to take my money on a 2.5, 3-year-old male to put to, again, a locality female to create 100% hets versus the risk of 5 to 6 years of raising a female. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if this snake ends up being male and it ends up surviving and doing well, that'll be huge. Plus I've got, in addition to having all pos hets ready to go for it to breed as soon as it's mature, I'll also do what you said, get some captive bred Beox, get females, anything unrelated to get some outcross blood in there, and you can produce 100% hets with them.
And you won't even have to ask. You won't even have to buy those animals if you don't want. Like I mean, I guarantee you, anybody that that knows that you're doing this, if that thing's a male, and you just say like, "Hey, I want that Beox to take to this," it's being sent over.
Yeah.
But then you gotta share.
Right. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll pay.
Yeah. Then you got to share, especially when a Beox is going for nothing.
Okay, then my next question was going to be like, what's your address? But all right, I get it. Gotcha. I got it. I got some maniacs. I can sex a female right now.
Oh man. So let me just, as we get towards the end here, and this is going to be the selfish part of the episode for myself. And I mean, I know a lot of people that are getting into chondros and listening to these podcasts, they want to know the ins and outs of breeding and everything. But I guess rather than making this like a question after question after question, I kind of just want to hear like your take on how are you breeding these animals? Like, what type of cycling are you doing? When are you doing introductions? Is it a time of the year? Is it based off of the female's weight and look? I just a little background. I just did they're on their third introduction for my Arus, and I have noticed my female start to get a little bit a size to her. It's not an ovulation or anything, but she's starting to look fuller. I've gotten like 7 to 10 confirmed locks. It was really weird. This last introduction I did, she ended up being grounded for a day and a half, but I didn't see the male on the perch on my camera. I went in the garage, I looked in, and he had her locked on the floor.
Was that when you told me, I think she killed him?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, that was a whole different story. I literally thought my male freaking killed my female when I was looking at the camera. I thought one of their heads was in the water, and it took like 30 minutes for her to even move. And I was like, oh shit.
It took you 30 minutes to text me back when I said, what do you mean?
Yeah, true.
One of them's dead. Dude, and then it was just radio camera. Silence.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just interested what your take is on, specifically the early stages of the pairing situation, how you're cycling, what are you doing?
Well, I'll preface this by saying that one thing I've learned from talking to so many people over the last year is that there's no right way.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways to do it. There are things people do that may or may not have any influence on, cycling, like we like to call it. Like, I have always been kind of a temperature cycling. I've kept them chondros the same way since the very first year I started keeping them, all the way until really I moved into this new house and new room a couple of years ago. And that was strictly based off of temperature cycling. meaning that I had, really good control over my ambient temperatures. I was in a basement room. Even being in Alabama where it gets, crazy hot in the summertime, my room was underground and I was in a situation where I was heating it 365 days a year. So to get it to 84, I had to turn the heat on every day. Even in the middle of the summer, it's 100 degrees out, the room's underground, and it's, you got to heat it to get to 84. Right. So in that kind of situation, you have really precise control over, over your temps. And I would start cycling them, kind of coincide it with I've always had windows in the room, so kind of coincide the temperature cycling with what's going on outside. We do have it does get cold here. Not as cold as it'll get as cold as it does anywhere, in the teens and, single digits, but for very short periods of time. We'll get a cold snap.
That's cold as hell, dude. It's not getting that
yeah,
cold.
But but it's happened. Look at whatever you guys called it, the ice apocalypse or whatever happened to you a couple. Yeah, whatever. It does happen. It's just, it's rare. So, yeah. We'll have those conditions, but it'll be like a couple days a year and that's it. And then the next, a front will come through, then it'll be, 60 degrees again. But it does get really cold here. There is a season in the, late fall. It starts to really cool off where your daytime temps go from, mid 80s to 90s to down into the 50s and 60s. And I always use that as, my kind of trigger to, or at least what I think in my head was cycling the snakes. Okay, I'm going to start letting them get cooler at night. Yeah. The way I've got my heat set up, what I've always kind of strived for is having the same daytime high ambient all year long. So shoot for 82 to 83 degrees.
Are you doing supplemental heat with that ambient?
Yeah, but just a little bit. Get them up to, I'll give them, their hot spot is, upper 80s, but only my heat panels are sized so that, they got to be right under the heat in order to get that. Okay. But yeah, I'll give them a hot spot into the upper 80s. And I've kept them that way, forever. And then, give them when I say I'm cycling them to breed, I'm lowering the nighttime lows to lower. So normally I'll do an ambient of 84, give them a hot spot that turns on to the, high 80s for a couple hours a day, and then no heat, ambient or supplemental heat at night. It just drops down to kind of whatever the room will get to. And in the summertime, that's usually high 70s. In the wintertime, it's high 60s, low 70s. And in this new room, I have to actually heat it a lot. It's got a lot of windows, so I don't have as much control over it anymore. So I'm still temperature cycling, but just from listening to how other people have done things, I tried food cycling for the first time this year. So the two females that produce these clutches, both of them produce these clutches from having been fed. I think I fed them one mouse all summer each. So that's like a 3.5 month period where they essentially got no food except for maybe one small meal in there. And then we had a cold front come through, put the males in, and the female that laid the 26 egg clutch or 27, whatever it is, that was from one observed lock. So put the male in, he locked the first night, never saw him lock again. And she started showing symptoms immediately, like, changing color, swelling up, off feed. The other snake, she also started showing signs early, but she was with Versace and he just bred her. He'll breed anything, anytime.
I got snakes. You could put a garden hose in there and they'll do it.
Exactly. He's one of those snakes. Yeah. So, coincidentally, the snake that was the one and done clutch from this year. He was also one and done last year. Bred him last year with a female that produced, and I think she had, I don't remember the exact numbers, 12, 15, 16 eggs, something like that. Unfortunately, one of them hatched. I had a bunch of full-term dead last year, and a bunch of babies that were, you could tell they were alive, and they couldn't get out of the egg. I think my egg box, I let it dry out too much, which is kind of why I'm doing the vermiculite, putting them on vermiculite this year. Okay. But anyway, so that
real quick, when you say food cycling, right? So can you kind of break down like how you're changing that up and like what type of feeding that you're doing?
Yeah, normally I feed them every 2 to 3 weeks as adults. You know, I mix it up. I do give a rat occasionally. I try to do mainly mice. But if I don't have any mice that week, you know, for whatever reason, I've fed a bunch of ball pythons that ate all my mice that week, I'm giving them a small, or, you know, rat pup or a small rat. So that, to go from that every 2 to 3 weeks to this past summer, I basically stopped feeding every chondro all summer. So for 3 months, they didn't get anything except for, I think I fed them one time a small meal in between. And then started feeding them again. Cold front came through, boom, paired them, and here we are. Now, just like that. Bill does it a little bit differently. Like he'll feed, then stop feeding. And I believe what he does is when he stops feeding, then he starts pairing things up again. And then he starts putting the food to him again. And that, you know, triggers them to ovulate or, you know, start growing follicles, whatever. Yeah. So again, I don't know that there's anything magic about what I did this year. I think a lot of it, you know, the fact that I was able to, that I have this clutch of 26 from a one and done pairing tells me that timing is a big part of it. You know, I put that male in at exactly the right time and he got the job done. You know, I've had plenty of pairings where they breed for months on end and nothing happens. Right. So I think timing is a big part of it. You know, I think Bill's doing some ultrasounding this year, which I've never necessarily been against it, but I've never, even with ball pythons, I've never used an ultrasound. I don't like,
I've never understood the reason to do it with ball python. You just see the female around the water bowl and you throw a male in there and boom, done.
Yeah, with ball pythons, the deal is that, you know, you've got a small number of really powerful, high value males, and you want to maximize the amount of females that you're putting in with. So you don't want to waste that male's time and effort on a snake that's not ready. So you've got 100 females here. You're putting them to the ones that are like the most ripe for the, you know, like they're ready to go, you know, so you don't want to waste them. So that's why you do it in ball pythons. And with chondros, it may not necessarily be because you want to maximize the production of that male, but more so the timing of it.
Yeah, just like, what's going on.
Yeah. So when follicles are, you know, however many millimeters they are or whatever, you know, now is the time to put the male in. Right. And, you know, as more people have success with chondros, and, you know, there's a lot of ball python people that are getting into chondros now. I'm sure that, you know, more and more people will start using the ultrasound and figuring that out. And, you know, I think maybe what you'll find is that, you know, maybe there's really not a definite season, you know, to where maybe different females are you know, primed up at different times of the year for who knows what reason, you know. I don't think there's really been enough work at this point to say that food cycling is what you need to do, or temperature cycling is what does it. You know, a lot of it, I think, is, you know, if I'm being completely honest, it's just kind of dumb luck, you know. Like we put snakes together, and it's kind of like, you know, the old or the saying that if you want 3 or 4 chondro clutches, you better have 6 or 7 pairings. Well, why is that? wire ball pythons, if you want 10 pairings, you put 9 together or whatever, they just, I don't know how retics are, but with ball pythons,
they're probably as easy as once you figure down retics, they're probably just as easy as ball pythons, and that's why it's a dangerous game, because we're talking about large animals with large clutches, and they're too easy to breed. I wish retics were as hard to breed as chondros. There'd be way less of them, and that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. So I don't. I think that as more people start using that tool, we'll learn more. But there's not a ton of chondro breeders. I only know of a very few that even use ultrasound.
Yeah,
I had my my last female that laid. I had her ultrasounded. There's a guy. It's local. It's a ball python breeder. He came over, and we measured the follicles. She kind of threw me for a loop, and I didn't know what the heck to think. So he came over, and I didn't know if I was seeing things, but she had pretty, big follicles. He said it would have been big for a ball python. It was neat to see it. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at, but he was like doing like the measuring it with the line. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a cool tool. For me, it's always been just a time thing. It's like, like I told you earlier, I'm a one-man show kind of running at max. I'm running at red line with everything I have to do. Like ultrasounding is just one more thing to add to the list.
No, thank you. I don't need another.
And it's an expensive tool to have just to like use it how I did, like just to make sure that you're on the right path. Like there is something there, and you're not just seeing, it's something an anomaly or something.
Right. Now the magic comes into just measuring them and knowing when to put the male in.
Yeah. I don't even drop temperatures. I don't even manipulate temps. They just have night drop year round.
Right.
And my last
my
first one I did, I dropped temps, and I had good results too. I've had good results with all 3 clutches. Actually, I've been pretty lucky.
I'm gonna pull a page out of Ryan Young's book. And I don't know if he's ever said this or not, but this is my observation of him being able to breed a shit ton of python species in the same requirements. Pythons are pythons. The understanding of their reproductive system and how they need to cycle and breed is the same across the board. The difference is the parameters of temperature. So in my opinion, like Marcial, you're talking about something that Bill does, right? Like Bill goes through and he'll feed, and then he goes off feed, and then he feeds again, and then it triggers it. I mean, it's the same thing with retics. I feed my retics a decent amount of food in a short period of time, and then I give them like a 2-month drought, where in that 2-month drought, I'm feeding them one small meal. And then after that, I hit them heavy with food, and within a month, they'll go off of feed, which means they're building follicles. You put the male in, and boom, it's when you time it up, it's as easy as can be. And I mean, there's no reason why other python species don't work that same way. Temperature cycling can play a part of a lot of things, but we know that with every species of python, food cycling can work. But there's also that line you have to, right? Like food cycling, at least in the retic world, also comes with the idea of like you power feed your females until they're 3.5 years old, and you have this massive, fat, obese animal, and sure, they're breeding for you, but does that mean they're healthy, right? So, and I'm sure with chondros, it's even more of a risk of having an obese chondro is not a good thing. But that's why I think for me, the drought period, if you're going to feed heavily at some point, a drought period is not a bad idea.
How's that work with your males, Marshall? Do you have any males that go off feed during breeding?
Man, I have over the years. Right now, I would say rarely. I mean, Versace eats all the time. The other male that I used this year, he'll go off feed occasionally. He's not as strong an eater, but I mean, it's not like he'll go off for 3 or 4 months. Like he'll maybe skip a meal every now and then. And that's kind of been more my experience. I have had some that just, once you start dropping temps, they just stop eating. That's kind of been the oddballs as opposed to the norm.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work. If I tried your method, I don't think it would work for my one male. I have one male it's a larger snake, and he eats through breeding, and he'll breed a piece of rope. But then my other male's a little funny. He's like 300 grams, if that. He's tiny as hell, but he's proven, and he just grounds himself, and he'll bite wrap and then leave the mouse in there for
That dude, that's
several
my
feet.
least favorite.
Dude, over and over and over. And he's already small, so it concerns me, man. If I think he would probably die. I don't think he'd make a breeding season if I starved him for 3 months and then he went off feed for 2 or 3 months. Because my pairings are long, because I don't drop temperatures. So, like you said, it's the luck of the draw. I just watch behavior, and when my female starts hunting more during the day and, hugging the cool side, that's when I try to toss them in there. And I've noticed my females act like that like a few times a year. It's almost like they're producing follicles, having a night drop year round.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, I will say, like, I'm breeding fully ambient now. I will say I miss gradient a lot, because when they start hugging that cool side, you know something's up. And that's what I used to do when I was breeding in gradient. I'll just say the stress of keeping ambient, though, is way less.
Yeah. If I had to redo it, if I had better control over the temperatures in this room that I'm in now, I would consider going ambient, just because it makes everything so much easier, having like
so
one heat source as opposed to, whatever. I mean,
I tell
like
people
right
all
now,
the time, like, I used to have phantom beeping, like, the sound that your thermostats make when like a probe is unplugged, or like the temperature fluctuates, that beep beep. I used to hear that shit in the middle of the night when I kept in gradient. Like, I don't have to deal with that shit anymore.
It's crazy, Marshall. I mean, what you said is just completely validated. Lucas keeps completely ambient. You keep ambient with a little bit of supplemental heat, and my room is air conditioned year round, and it is solid at 70 to 71 degrees and does not change. No matter if it's 10 degrees outside or 100, my room is 70 to 71 degrees at all times.
What do they think? There's 1,000 ways to skin a deer?
Yeah. 70 to 71, and with no supplemental heat?
No. I have all supplemental heat. Like, my room is pinned in that temp.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm zero ambient. Like, everything is supplemental. Like, it's only there to keep it cool enough in the room, because when I moved everything upstairs and I started actually breeding, I was I don't know why, I just became a firm believer from a lot of people's feedback that, like, lower temperatures attribute to the male's fertility and the female's ability to produce follicles and all that, whatever. And I just took kind of Socrates' method and just pinned it at 70, 71, and all my heat panels are 84 during the day, and I think they're at 78 at night, 77, something like that.
And again,
it's 12 and 12 on, 12 off.
That's the perfect parameter for the python species, right? When you have your hot spot at a certain degree, but on the cool end, because your ambient temperature, it's still like 74 ambient inside the cage, you can witness those behaviors of them hugging the cold side, which means they're building follicles. And there's a lot of value in having a very precise, like that precision, like detail.
Yeah, it's very I don't know. See, I think dropping I don't know. I guess I could just contradicted myself. I sound like an idiot now, because I was going to say, I don't know, maybe it's, it's the most non-naturalistic way to keep them that stable. However, I personally drop it 12 hours a day, every single day, because that's the most natural way to have, a circadian rhythm, because I have, heat blocking tint on my windows, and I have a window open, and the light comes in, and there's no supplemental lighting that I use regularly in any of my cages in my breeding. I think that's more naturalistic, because they're how far down the canopy with 100 feet, 200 feet above them. They're not getting direct sunlight.
Yeah. Speaking of lighting, Marshall, what do you do for lighting?
Nothing. Just window. Yeah, whatever comes in the windows. The room does have a lot of windows, so I mean, they get a lot of light during the day. Not direct sunlight, but indirect.
I will say my chondros right now are on time lights, and fortunately the timer is based off of sunrise, sunset. So right now, like, my lights in the garage are shutting off. Dude, My lights are shutting off at around like 5:50 to 6:05 p.m. I'm in there after work sometimes feeding a 14-foot retic, a freaking 6-pound rabbit, and all of a sudden I open up the cage and I'm putting the rabbit there and the lights go out. Do you know how terrifying that is? Do you know how terrifying that is? Literally just pissed down the side of my leg.
You both saw how big I am in real life. That would take me. That would be the last. That'd be the last thing I saw. My kids would find me inside of the snake.
Oh man. So I now go in the garage and I'm like, okay, the lights are going to turn off in 15 minutes. I'm going to wait to feed. But I will say a lot of the, I'm switching over to the Heartland enclosures, which have like very minimal bezels. And I think I'm going to just use the room lighting because they're in my garage. There's no window. I'm going to use that room lighting to provide them that lighting and let that cycle just according to sunrise, sunset throughout the year.
I would. They're hiding under leaves in the wild. They don't
see direct sunlight much.
They don't like direct light in their face. Like behind me, that's for me. And they stay on very minimal hours.
Yeah.
At night. Their circadian rhythms flip-flopped. Thank you. Thank you. My wife approved, so they got to be great.
I did have at one point, I had lighting in all the cages, but like it would, over the years, the humidity's gotten to them and they burn out and then you got to replace their bulb. And I mean, now you can do LED, which makes it super easy. If I was doing it all over again, I probably would put some sort of dimmable LEDs in the cages. But, at this point, I'm not changing cages at this point, I'll
tell you what, have you seen the ones from Reptile Basics? How cheap they are? They work great.
They do. That's what I have in mind.
They got LED strips, all different sizes for standard cage sizes. And it's 3 lights per controller that's on a dimmer.
Yeah.
And it's like $15 a light and like 25 for the dimmer. So all 3 cages were maybe like,
cages,
$80.
My cages are going on like 2 years with the same light in them. And then just they're working phenomenally. Chuck, you got any other questions before we wrap up?
I do have one, and this will be my last question. What is something that you want to work with chondro-wise that you don't have anything of, whether it be designer or locality? What would you want to work with? What do you want to work with right now that you don't have?
I love that question.
Man,
there's so much. There's so much out there.
What will you be working with in the future that you don't have? Ooh, this is getting good now.
I would like to add some locality just to get some outcross blood in there down the road. I did just do a swap with Brian Susan. So I swapped him a Versace tiger stripe male for a male from him, which was some old school kind of trace back to our Boreal Adventures, which was Buddy Gesker, which that's going way back. But so swapped a male with him. I love the, obviously John Irby's got some amazing bloodlines, that he's picked up from various sources, including, Christian at the barn, date, like as far as just like, I'm just trying to think, like there's a guy, his name's Nacho Arnold, I think. He posts mainly on Facebook, but he's got two of the best high yellow animals you've ever seen, that are like 90% just solid yellow.
What are they?
Something that I think I want to say they're Rob Worrell line. I could be wrong about that.
Okay, see, I don't know that much about designer shit. The only thing I know what Rob Worrell for is Black Pearl. They don't go high yellow, do they? Or is
maybe not Black Pearl, but Rob Worrell had a bunch of different stuff.
I'm
yeah.
muted.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, Marshall, please. All I'm gonna say is just keep working the tiger stripe in high yellow, please. Just keep doing it, and in a couple years, I'm gonna come begging for some snakes.
Yeah, high yellow is probably my favorite. That's probably my favorite look.
It's so cool.
I hated it at first, but
No, it's so
dude,
nice.
now it tickles my fancy. Now I really like that shit.
So
I want
I
to make some
gotta-
high yellow stuff.
I got a red Neo Biak that's got some blue on the top, but it's maintaining a lot of yellow and has a lot of high white. It's an import from Dan O'Leary, and I plan to take that to an Aru. And I'm hoping by 3rd gen Aru Biak crosses, I can get some really amazing tricolor with high yellow.
May not even take that long, you know. You just never know. You just get the right. You get
I got
the right
some high
two-
yellow out of my Aru. She bit
Yeah.
the shit out of me, and my fucking whole arm was yellow. It was just friggin' bruising everywhere.
You're stupid. Oh man.
The I lost my train of thought there.
High yellow Rob Worrell.
Yeah, no, look at the pairing that Sony and Ken Deal did this past year. That he had at the. I know I saw both of you guys at Build. I don't know. Did either of you guys go to the show?
Yep, and I saw those animals he had on display that looked ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's just two. You know, that was if memory served me correctly. That was not like a real heavy designer pairing.
No.
So you know, you just pair the right two snakes together, and sometimes you just get lucky.
I mean, that's what breeding chondros is anyways. When you come to like the oddballs that end up amazing, it starts off with a matter of luck.
Totally.
Yeah, those animals are beautiful. I
They were
often
great.
comment on them to Sony when he posts them. They are just awesome.
But yeah,
You
I mean,
didn't-
there's
you
so
didn't
much
see-
stuff out there. There's been a lot of people here, especially in the last year or two, that have been, you know, they're kind of just now getting producing clutches for the first time. They've been killing it, you know, just making really, really cool stuff. So, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that I want, you know, that I would want to work with eventually. You know, I've just been, ever since we went through the Nido stuff like 10 years ago, I've been very, like, this chondro from Brian's the first new chondro that's been in the house. And, you know, I can't even remember the last time. It's been
Great
years. It's been
pickup
probably
too, by the way.
10 years. Yeah, that was a great deal for both of us. It worked out. You know, I think the bloodlines complement each other.
Absolutely.
And, you know, he needed a little something different. I did too. So,
Good.
just worked out.
Brian Susan, is that Sundown Reptiles, the guy with all the tree monitors?
Yep.
Didn't his whole town get swept away or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like bad.
Yeah, no. It was
Like, is his facility damaged or the animals suffering?
His facility wasn't necessarily damaged, I don't think. At least not as bad as, you know,
he
like
had some water, I think, but that was it.
Right. He did get a little flooding, but his main thing was he lost power.
Yeah.
And he had a generator, and he actually sent all of his chondros to me, because, you know, all this happened while he was away on an overseas trip. He was in Indo, and the whole hurricane happened, you know, while he was out. He came back, and he had a backup generator. I think he lives in a pretty remote spot. And I believe what he told me was that his place was, you know, for the most part okay, but the roads were so fucked up that the closest you could park a car to his house was like 2 miles.
That's right. I remember seeing.
Yeah, so there was no way for him to like refuel his generator. So his generator, he knew it was going to last for a week or whatever, and he's like, man, I got to find something to do with all these, you know, monitors, all these chondros. So I was like, dude, you know, I'll set up a rack in my quarantine area and you can send them to me. So he sent me, I don't know, I think it was eight or nine snakes. And I kept them. I got them, set them up in my quarantine area, and they told him that he was not gonna. This was back in, geez, I can't even remember when this was. Maybe like September when this happened. Anyway. They were telling me he wasn't going to get power back until like Christmas. And he sent me the snakes, and like I had them for a week, and his power got turned back on. So, yeah, basically sent them right back to him.
I got my switch getting put in this weekend.
You got your what? Oh,
My
your switch for the generator.
Yeah, I got
transfer switch.
Yeah, I got a big. Yeah, it's not like an auto one. I got to do it manually, but
Okay.
I mean the generator's big. It's 13 kW, so that should be enough
Nice.
to run the house. I mean, just as long as
Yeah.
all the TVs aren't turned on while the AC is running, I think I should be able to get by.
Oh, the TV.
And I have my own. I have an actual separate suitcase generator just for the snake room as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, when I set up my garage, I had a 240-volt split on the outside to where I can plug it into my generator, and that way I can make sure that my generator is letting the mini split in the garage that regulates my temperature work. As a matter of fact, we had some crazy prediction next week that we might get some snow, and so when snow comes to San Antonio, I'm in the process of just servicing my generator right now and having to make sure it's good to go.
Why are Texans such shit drivers in the snow?
No,
I'm sorry I said
hold
that.
up, hold
but
up.
Why are they terrible drivers? Dude, there's a dusting, and they're like, bah, bah, bah. We got 4 feet of snow.
It's the same here. The problem is that people are not used to driving in it, and we don't have the
tires. We don't have all-season tires.
We don't have that. We don't have salt trucks. We don't have people plowing. We don't have plows to plow the road. So you get an inch of ice on the road, and it's like you can't drive on it.
No, Chuck, I know what video you're talking about. That thing that was going recently viral on social media. The freaking Fort Worth
talking about the shit I see on social media every time there's fucking snow.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, it's not snow that makes Texas drivers bad. They're just bad.
Hey, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Everybody that says I hate Texas, I didn't say that. He did.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, and again, this is me coming from Florida. There's 4 months of the year where you got to worry about shit drivers, and that's the snowbirds that come from New Jersey all the way down to Florida. And then the rest of the year is okay. But no, in Texas, it's every day there's terrible drivers.
You come here in a winter storm, there's about 25 redneck kids and Jeep Wranglers drifting every corner in 2-wheel drive like a bunch of douchebags, and they do it. It's like Tokyo Drift, bro. There's pine trees and friggin' raccoons flying out of the mud tires. They're like, bop, 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 going past your house. Unbelievable. With a Miller Lite in their hand and a friggin' large dip fucking skull in their mouth.
Oh, man, you really do live in the country.
Dude, blasted Jason Aldean, man, spitting tobacco out their freaking windows. Yeah. There's a bunch of talented individuals that live around me.
Oh, man. Marcial, man, I want to, on that note, I want to thank you for coming on. Before we head off, do you mind just kind of plugging your socials where people can find you?
Yeah. Red Mountain Herp. That's the spot on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not really that active on my Facebook.
You still have Chondrolicious open or no?
Nah.
No, okay.
No. The Facebook, I don't really post there just because it on my business page, just because it doesn't seem like it gets as much traction as it does Instagram. So maybe a couple of years ago, I pretty much went to Instagram almost exclusively, but that's the way to get in touch is Red Mountain Herp on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Well, Marcial, man, we'll definitely be having you on in the future. Dude, send all the update pics and vids you want to my messages. I'll be more than glad to see how that albino chondro is doing. Massive congrats on that. And I really hope it goes the distance, man. I hope that we can start to see them become a thing in the future.
Well, that makes 2 of us. Yeah. And,
right.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Always, like talking snakes. So.
Absolutely. All right. We'll send you back and we'll wrap up here. Thanks again, man.
Later, brother. Thanks for coming on.
See you guys. Yep.
Feels good to get the last one in, right? Or the first one in.
It does. I was, like I said, not feeling great. I was a little under the weather right before we started, but after we started talking snakes and stuff like that, I came to life. So.
Right. Exactly. And then that's one thing that I've done a lot of, like in the last month of taking a break. Like if you look at my Instagram right now, I think I've posted twice in the month of December. I just like kind of unplugged. It feels good to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I do want to use this a little bit to my advantage. Anyone who's listening has made it this far. Can you do me a favor? If you have anybody insures their collection or there's any sort of snake insurance, can you reach out and just tell me what you do, what it costs you a year or a month? I'm kicking around the idea. I got a lot of animals, so
snake insurance.
Basically insure a collection. I don't know the particulars or the policy or whatever. If anybody has insured it, whether it's because I have a legitimate business, so if it's business insurance,
I was gonna say if you get an LLC,
so I'm a sole proprietorship, but I am licensed through the state. Like, so I just did my renewal paperwork. I have a pet store permit, so the house is basically a pet store. I retain a vet. Like, everything's legitimate through the state and stuff like that. So it is a legitimate business prop.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's for just the financial side of it.
Yeah. If anyone hits you up, let me know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm very interested because I got buddies that have construction companies and their insurance ain't that bad for a construction company. So
yeah.
When you're dealing with, the amount of animals that I have and then, incubating eggs and then having neonates and then the possibility of losing power out in the country and
yeah, no,
I don't know.
Totally get that.
It's just a peace of mind to protect something that I really want to, keep whole. Like I don't want to get hit by some random storm where I got no power for 3 weeks in the winter and have to get out of it because I can't afford to get back into it,
Yeah, any way you can go above and beyond. So on that note, that's episode 15. We're wrapping up. We'll see you in a couple weeks for episode 16 of the Chondro Lounge. And you guys have a good one.
Y'all take care.